All right, we're live. Jon Jackson, how's it going, buddy?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Nice,
how about
man.
you?
Good. It's always funny because we do the how you doing before we start recording, then we start recording, and you have to do it again. It's like obligatory. But yeah, man, it's good to finally chat. We were saying that we've kind of known each other on Twitter for ever and for years, and back from when you were doing Magento, and that's been like 5 years or so since you kind of exited an agency. Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. And so what do you so you do lecturing? What do you like? You do a whole bunch of stuff. What all do you do these days?
Yeah, well, so it's a big question. It's like, how long have we got? So yeah, I mean, my background was like, I've never had a full-time job, which I'm pretty proud of.
How old are you? How old are you? Because I'm
35. I'm 36.
Oh, that's pretty.
36.
Okay. Because sometimes people say they've never had a full-time job and they're like 25 and they just start,
Yeah.
But that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I think I'm probably unemployable in like full-time context now.
Yeah.
But, I love it. So I've always loved doing different things. So I went to uni and then I was freelancing straight away.
That's cool.
So I set up my own business and then co-founded an agency, which was a rocky ride for about 6 or 7 years.
Agencies are tough, man.
There were lots of good things.
It's a tough business.
Yeah. And the mix, it was what it was, and touched a bit of Magento while I was there, survived to tell the tale. I think we met each other because of some mutual interest with, I think you were running a SaaS product at the time, which was really cool.
Thanks, man.
And it sort of introduced you to a really low paying and annoying client.
I love all my clients. Yeah.
And then after I'd started going more independent, and I started part-time teaching, and then kind of got out of the agency.
How did you get into teaching? Not many people in tech do that. It's interesting.
So it was completely, it was a random coffee shop conversation with like the head of department at the university, because I got to know the university because it was in our local town in High Wycombe in the UK.
Yeah.
And we had actually employed some of the graduates from the uni there.
Right.
So I'd known the head of department, and we were having a coffee one day, and it came up somehow in conversation that they sometimes needed people to do lecture, teach modules. And I was like, oh, I might be interested in that. And it started from there. And so I took on one module part-time, just 3 hours a week.
Software development type of stuff?
It was actually web services. The module was web services, and they had nobody to teach it. So I threw my hat in the ring and made it up as I went along. And I didn't know what I was doing. I knew about web services a bit, because that was my background, but I didn't know what I was doing in front of students. But it was great fun. They were learning, I was learning.
That's cool.
And then it just slowly evolved from there.
Did you get like a much?
Been good.
I would say, did you get a much better? Like, obviously, you had you had experience like working as a developer, running all that kind of stuff. Then when you went to teach web services, did you get a much better like understanding of what you were teaching than having done it for years?
Looking back, so now having like been teaching for 6 or 7 years, like part-time, it's been so good for me because teaching helps you get inside a topic.
Yeah.
You have to know it.
Yeah.
It forces you. It pushes you.
Yeah.
And that's been really good for me, because I think one of the downsides of always being like an independent coder, because bear in mind, I started out coding like 20 years ago when you didn't even have Twitter. I didn't have a community or anything around me. I was kind of learning in isolation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you miss out on a lot of that sort of collaborative learning and knowing what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And I think now coming back to teaching has like forced me to dig deeper on some of the things that I've had gaps on, you know, from my younger days. So it's been really valuable.
So
I started doing, I started doing 100 days of code on Twitter, like recently.
Nice.
Even though I'm 20 years in, you know?
Yeah. Why not? That's cool. And by the way, I apologize. I interrupt a lot. So interrupt me, you know, feel free.
Don't worry.
But I was going to say, so if you're 35, 36, 20 years ago, you would have been 15, 16 when you started coding.
Yeah.
I started it at the same time. I remember I got like a book on C programming, and just, you know, just jumped into it, and then started taking classes at a community college and stuff like that, and just like fell in love with it.
Nice.
You know,
my first language was PHP in the dark old days. When you could build incredibly insecure and badly built websites. So those were fun days.
That's cool. And so do you code professionally now still, or?
When I can. So it goes up and down. So actually one of the independent projects I got involved with after I got out of the agency, or while I was getting out agency side, was I met a couple of non-technical founders, well, aspiring founders in the TV and film industry, and they basically wanted to build, we'd already known each other from a tiny little app project which I'd helped on, and then we ended up building out a platform, and then expanding it, and I was building it all in PHP in CodeIgniter, right? So
nice.
So I was building it all and loving it. I was maybe working 2-3 days a week on it, and they had a little bit of funds to kind of seed it, and I was kind of building it out quite quickly, and that was great. And that we ended up managing to sell the whole thing, and we got in front of some larger company that wanted the tech. We hadn't generated any revenue, but they wanted the tech, so that kind of ended up that was a kind of really interesting journey. So I was coding a lot during that phase. Then it fell off a bit, maybe for another year. Now I'm coding a little bit on and off, mainly in like Laravel, PHP. Not as much as I want to, because I've got a new venture. I can't stop trying to launch new things. Trying to build something new. So I code when I can, but yeah, it comes and goes.
Yeah, but you're not like doing you're not doing a lot of like consulting work as a developer kind of deal.
Not a lot. I do. I've got 1 or 2 gigs where it's low level or low quantity kind of consulting on startups with like non-technical founders, because I can help them out quite a lot. Just make sure they don't make the wrong decisions, or, you know, burn a load of cash when it's not the right thing to do.
Right.
So I do a little bit of that on the side as well.
Got it. Nice. And then there's the ebook that you did on like job searching, like modern day, which is how did you like fall into that project?
Yeah, so that was this August, this summer. So this August was a bit quieter. So teaching had quietened down. So I actually had some clear days over, you know, a few weeks, which was like unprecedented. And I realized I was thinking of putting an online course together before this. And, you know, that was kind of bubbling about like startups and stuff. And but I didn't kind of get around to it. And then I realized, well, I wanted to put something together for students as well. And I realized I picked up loads of stories and experiences and tips and ideas to do with getting your first job in tech, because I've been working with students, and I've got them some roles at like local companies.
Right.
I remember when I was hiring, so I think I hired my first hire in my early 20s. Again, I didn't know what I was doing, and then subsequently hired a few others, but they all found me. They'd reached out to me, and that's always been a massive bit of advice that I give to people, that if you speculatively reach out to people, you'd be amazed at, like, it can work so well. And I put I realized I picked up all these examples, all these tips, real world examples over the last, 12 to 15 years. And I thought, hey, let's turn this into a guide. Let's put it into a document, because I meet new students every year and I tell them loads of random stuff. Yeah. But I don't keep track of what I tell them.
Put it all in one place.
So it'd be great to have it in a single guide. Yeah. I could just, hey, look, here's my brain dump. Go and read it.
Nice.
And then it turned into a mini book. It was like 65 pages or something.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, wow, cool. And it took me like a week to put it together, and then like a week to edit and get it online.
That's cool.
And you know what? It was amazing to be able to start and finish something. Because I hadn't felt like I'd finished anything for ages.
Because compared to building software, like it's never done. It's never done. It's like you get it out, then there's bugs, and then it's just, and then there's new features, and then there's new bugs, and then it's just like, that there's something to me that sounds very, very attractive about that as well. Like, do a project, actually have it done. That's cool, man. That's interesting. I really fell into, the whole job hiring thing as well. Like, I'd built, like my main thing I do now that pays the bills is Commerce Hero, which is like a hiring platform and kind of a recruiting type of a deal. And I was working on the email SaaS app, and before that I'd been a developer my whole life. And then I started getting a little businessy, by building the SaaS app and stuff. And then I'd go to conferences and I, connect with the Magento community, do the podcast. And, I'd hear people say, man, we're trying to hire. And then on the flip side, I would know developers that were like, I would know that they would maybe open to a job or whatever. And it's just like, oh, it's straightforward. And I made a couple, kind of like you said, I just made a couple referrals just organically. And I went, this is pretty straightforward, and so then, so I kind of just fell into it, and it still feels weird. But yeah, I think a lot of times people that have and this kind of goes to sort of the whole modern day job searching thing, or just kind of almost the way jobs and innovation work in the current day, which is a lot of times somebody that is new to a field has better insights, or somebody who, has experienced the field like from different angles, right? Like you experienced it trying to hire someone. You experienced what that felt like. I experienced the job market as a developer. I wasn't just like, I'm going to be a recruiter and I studied to be a recruiter and I've been a recruiter for 20 years. Like I just experienced it from this angle, and you sprinkle a couple of those things together. You just go in and just kind of do it, not really knowing what you're doing. And a lot of times that's how you figure stuff out,
Learning by doing is often the best way, and interestingly, I think that's how a lot of the random good things that have happened to me have just been through, like, just connecting the dots between random conversations or random experiences. It's really powerful.
Like when I like with the outreach thing too, I know I glance at your table of contents because I'm a horrible reader. But I saw, the outreach piece in there that you mentioned, and I started doing some LinkedIn outreach for Commerce Hero and stuff like that. And then I just found how easy it was. Now, if you do it, and I want to get into some of the details here, I'm curious about some of the details on this, because there's a lot of LinkedIn outreach that, in my opinion, is very bad. And the way that I tended to do it was just less is more kind of approach, very low key, not sending massive, paragraphs and things like that to people I don't even know. Very simple, like very not rocket science, but keep it simple, keep it personal. And I was just shocked by the types of results I got. So whenever you know, I would tell people too, like if I couldn't directly help them with a job, I'd be like, dude, just do some LinkedIn outreach. Like search for the type of person that would hire you, search for their job title, connect with a certain number of people in your second degree network, and send them a short and sweet message, you know? Anyway, so like I think about that kind of stuff all the time, like outreach, you know, approaches.
It's so powerful. I mean, everything in business and everything in work is human interaction, right? I mean, people hire people, people buy from people.
Yeah.
Just trying to automate the heck out of everything. It's fine at a certain scale, and depends on what you're doing. But I love the phrase of, you know, I can't remember who coined it, but do things that don't scale.
Yeah, I think it was Paul Graham. I want to say
like the truly.
Yeah.
Probably it sounds about right. And because that's what's like so special. On that note, interestingly, going back to the story of like the startup that we managed to sell, or the tech we managed to sell. So one of my co-founders, because they'd been involved in like the union side of things in the industry, TV and film industry.
Right.
They'd been in the same room as like some high execs, like Warner Brothers and, you know, stuff like that.
Right.
They didn't really know them, but they knew names, right? So what we did at one point, we sent out a letter. We wrote a physical letter to a couple of people, and it landed on their desk. Like these are high ups, right? And one of them picked it up and gave it to one of his colleagues, who was like still like beneath him, but still like the VP of like finance or something for Europe, you know. Right. And he reached out to me, and he was just like, "How can I help?" And then after the conversation, he then introduced us to two other people, and one of those was the owner of a company that ended up buying us. And like that's how random these opportunities can be.
Yeah,
just like taking a gamble. And I think the physical letter, that's another idea I throw in the book at some point. I think even
I saw that.
Cutting away from digital, actually, even just sending a physical letter can be, I mean, like I say in the book, like what's the open rate of physical letters that land on your desk, especially if there's like a handwritten address on it. I'd guarantee it's pretty near 100%. If I get that kind of letter, I'm going to open it. Yeah. Because I want to know what's in it. It's like unusual. It's not a bill. Yeah. You know, it's a letter. Yeah. And one of my old employees came back to me recently looking for some advice, because he's created a small agency, digital web agency in London. Great guy. And company is Nerd Cow. I'm just going to give him a shout out.
Nice. Nice.
But he then took my advice, and or it took an idea of what we were conversing about this sending letters, and he wrote a handwritten letter to like the CEO of a large gaming company.
Nice.
And he's got a meeting out of it.
That's so cool.
And like cool. You weren't like, I didn't tell him to do it. He just joined the dots. And I think you're doing something different, right? You differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
And like stuff can happen, and be human, you know?
Yeah. Like
going back to the job search side, you know, if you send out a load of LinkedIn requests and say, have you got a job for me? Can you hire me? You know, waste of time. I think with LinkedIn, like you said, you can find potential employers and just reach out and ask for advice.
Yeah.
Say what your situation is, and you're keen to learn, and just getting an idea of, you know, what goes on in companies like your company. People like being asked for help. Well, you know, if you're generally, you're not asking for a job. You're just asking,
especially if it's something specific. It's something like small-ish, you know, and specific. I think most people, you know, if something they can do quickly, they would be happy to.
Yeah.
And like the type of stuff I usually start with something very simple, like literally, hey John, how's everything going at whatever your company name is, at Acme Widgets? And I usually start with something as simple as that. And then that can go a lot of different directions. Maybe they say, oh, it's great, we're hiring, right? Maybe they say, you know, maybe they just say good, and you can tell they're not really that interested in chatting, you know. But yeah, like avoiding that hard pitch. Do you have a job? I need a job. I think, you know, because like these days,
smell the desperation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, most of the time I'm dealing with senior software developers that are in demand and have a skill set they've developed over many years, right? So it's easy to say, you know, don't be desperate when you're not desperate, because you have a great job and you're getting offers all the time. If you're on the flip side of that and you don't happen to have that skill set, or it's early days with it, then it's, I mean, I have empathy for that. It's like, how do you tell somebody like that, don't be desperate, when the reality is maybe they are, you know, and they're struggling with that. And it's a hard thing to figure that out. But
no, very.
You know,
I think I've had that off the back of my book. I've had sort of people reaching out to me on LinkedIn and Twitter, which has been great, because I've realized trying to help people is just, like I said, you know, trying to help people is good for you. I mean, it's kind of, it feels good, right?
Yeah.
And trying to coach people. Again, I'm not an expert in this. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. Don't come to me for advice on how to ace, you know, technical interviews and stuff like that.
Right.
Because I've only done one in my life and I failed it and still got offered the job. So I have no advice to give on that side.
I'm horrible at interviews. I'm horrible.
Yeah. But in terms of like thinking outside the box and just like reaching out to people, finding out ideas, then, you know, I can give advice, and you can only you can just give people ideas and they've got to run with them.
Right.
And like the first one of my early employees who found me, she'd kind of been working in a family company, sort of digital kind of websites and stuff, but she reached out with an incredibly short email, and I think I put it in the book. It's kind of literally like, hey, like, it was like a one-liner, like a two-line. It's like, I'm looking for, like, I wondered if you're kind of hiring, and if of interest, I can send through my CV, because I'm looking for different opportunities, and that's all it needed. And as it happened, I was open to opportunities. I was a typical small business owner. I had no hiring strategy.
Yeah.
I was barely keeping things going. Like when somebody drops in my lap, like a good person with a good attitude, it's like, yeah, let's talk. I need help.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was amazing. And I think trying to encourage people to realize that actually certain types of companies, certain business owners, you know, there are so many job opportunities out there that aren't advertised. There might even be job opportunities out there that even the owner doesn't realize, but
it might be a
partially hello.
It might be a partially formed thought that started in their mind at 8 a.m. this morning and is only 25% complete. It doesn't exist anywhere, right? Like that's how it works in the real world. Yeah.
So there are so many opportunities out there if you just start conversations.
Yeah, totally. I sometimes sort of imagine, like, if I were starting over and I knew what I know now, but had nothing, you know, I didn't have any network or anything like that, and just like starting fresh and trying to hustle and build a career. And I imagine kind of how I would do it and stuff like that. But it's tough when you're starting fresh, and everything's a lot easier when you have an existing network. You have, which is one of the great things about LinkedIn, is like, build your network, try to maybe post some content and things like that. And then that's going to be, something that, it's going to be a resource that you can use throughout your career, But, there were lots there were lots of interesting chapters. Something's making a sound at me. Um, there were a bunch of other
I
interesting
haven't got
chapters.
my
What's that?
table of contents in front of me.
Oh, perfect.
I haven't
Yeah.
got the table of contents in front of me.
Okay. Gotcha.
I need to find it.
Yeah. I think, I think the other thing is that like, a lot of these skills, like like we think of in terms of like, how do I get a job, or how do I job search? How do I do a resume? Like, a lot of the underlying skills are generic skills, right? That can apply to selling your product, finding an investor, finding a new customer, finding a job. They're all kind of like, I think it's good to think in terms of, those underlying skill, almost like it's almost like sales skills in a very broad sense.
Yeah.
In the sense that sales is just communicating with human beings and kind of solving problems, kind of a deal. And those skills can be used in so many different ways. And even once you get the job, like I did this talk once, like sales for developers. And I just talked about like the importance of like, you might have to sell an idea within your company. You might be working on an open source project and you want to build the user base, right? Those are all kind of like, whatever you want to call it, sales, marketing, outreach, increasing visibility for what you're doing. I see them all as being related, and I think that like those are things we probably, even if you're super technical, like those are things you probably want to develop. Not only when you're searching for a job, but just throughout your whole like life cycle,
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I think LinkedIn for me. So I've had like LinkedIn and Twitter over the years have like brought me like loads of opportunities. Obviously, most of my book is about stuff that I know, and actually, so I haven't had to go and search for a job very often. So it might seem bizarre that I'm writing.
That's what was
mainly is because I'm on the other side.
That's what kind of stuck out to me about it, and it's a little bit unusual that you did it, but that's what I think is so cool about it,
Yeah. I mean, for me, I realized I had loads of stuff that really kind of makes people think and helps students. And I've got students' jobs just by, I think there's examples in there, just through local companies. And again, these have been roles that haven't been advertised, but because they're people I've managed to introduce them and they've got roles. So it's things like that. Those are the things I wanted to share because I had no interest in, even if I felt like I was an expert at it, I have no interest in sharing how to write a CV tips or, how to ace an interview. Totally. Because there's loads of stuff out there already.
Yeah.
So part of this was kind of these personal experiences that I think do have a kind of like wider application. And yeah, I remember when I was starting out, like freelancing, I got some great agency clients through Twitter, local agencies I just reached out to, and they were like, when they had a freelancer that was local and looked like legit, they were like, great, like let's talk, like we've got projects for you. We're struggling to find good people. Yeah. And that turned into like loads of repeat business, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn as well, like relating it to the startup side of things. So one of my new venture is like an ed tech thing, because I've been in teaching and working in apprenticeships and stuff. I've realized there's like an annoying need for some useful tools. And I just feel compelled to try and solve it.
Nice.
But part of the outreach, I'm partly as Arvid Kahl would say, who's a legend on Twitter, I'm kind of embedded already. I'm embedded in the market because I'm teaching in apprenticeships. So that's kind of an edge that I have. And I already know some people in the market. But actually using LinkedIn to find the relevant people I want to talk to is just so easy, because you search for job titles and you find them and you can connect with them. And you can send them a little an initial message or not. I think this is another thing I've said in my book. Some people say you should always send a reason to connect in the initial note, like why are you connecting?
Yeah.
But frankly, it can be, I send loads that I just do blank.
Same here. Same here.
Then I start the conversation.
Yeah. The problem with the initial message is that everybody puts something cookie cutter in there. So then it's not only is it meaningless, it's cringe. It's worse than if it was empty, because now I know I'm part of some automation scheme that they're doing. And what I look at, I look at the job title. You know, I look at the photo. You know, if it's some photos are really random, like some photos are nicer. And that's what I look at, you know, and so that's a huge thing to me. It's a very small detail, but that's a huge thing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when I get connection requests, sometimes having a message, I'm more intrigued by people that don't send a message, because then I'll go and look. So why might you want to connect with me? Yeah. And then if it's like, oh wow, they're local and they're kind of in startups, right? Cool. Let's chat.
Exactly. It goes back to what you were saying of doing something that's not expected, right? Like the physical letter is not expected. The LinkedIn request without a message is it breaks the pattern, you know?
Yeah. And so, and the other thing with people on LinkedIn, I think when it comes to products and you know, the business side of things, like the Mum Test by Rob Fitzpatrick, which is a pretty cool little read, but just the principles there about, you know, you need to, basically the problem is when you ask people like, what do they think of your idea? Like if you ask your mum, like, what do you think of my idea? She's just going to say, oh yeah, it's great. Oh, and like, if you ask her, like, would you pay for this? And it's, oh yeah, of course. I think it's really good. I'd definitely pay for it. Yeah. But that's useless information. Yeah. 'Cause it's coming from your mum. Yeah. And she's going to say whatever. But actually what you need to be doing with like talking to people about potentially if you want to launch a product and validate something is don't talk about the product. It's just talk to them and talk about their problems and learn about their experiences. And right. I tried doing that with my initial round of outreach on LinkedIn with people in a particular space, education space. It was, broadly speaking, it was like it helped that I was embedded. It helped that I'm in the same industry. And basically it was like, I'm looking, kind of just reaching out to like share. I want to, you know, share experiences and sort of see how you're getting on with X, Y, and Z, because I'm also doing it. And I think I got incredible, like, I think I sent that message to like 12 people and I got like 7 or 8 people responding positively and like, you know, had a few calls off the back of it. And, you know, a mini hit list of people that are potentially like, you know, pilot users. Yeah. And yeah, it's just knowing the angle and knowing how to start those conversations, and without knowing that deliberately you're not selling. It's not about selling. Like, you should be just honestly kind of just exploring something, you know. And
I think like good sale, like the word sales is just it's a, you know, salesperson is a funny title. We associate a lot of negative things to you know, people that are like doing too hard of a pitch. But to me, good sales is exactly that. It's just simply talking to somebody about their problem as a human being, trying to understand it. And if you happen to have something that's a good solution, you go, hey, here's a good solution. And if you don't have something that's a good solution, you don't push it on them. So to me, that's like a great example of doing sales well. And you don't have to call it sales. I mean, it's kind of a semantics thing, but yeah, that's such a great approach, to launching a product.
I mean, so sales was like something I hated when I was on agency side, pitching and then not getting the pitch and,
yeah,
you know, just trying to like, oh, we need this project, you know, please give us this project.
Going back to the desperation,
and that wasn't my bag.
Going back to the desperation thing, right?
Yeah. And it's just, it's not a good place to be in. And I felt like I was never that guy. I would end up selling. I could be quite good at selling because I was the technical guy, and they could tell I wasn't selling because I wasn't selling. I was like, well, this is what we do, and here's my advice, and, you know, this is a good option, this is not a good option. And I suppose, you know, in one respect that is sales, but I never viewed myself as a salesman. But it's one of those things. Yeah.
Can you talk at all about the EdTech product, or is it stealth mode?
Yeah. So I have kind of announced the name. It's kind of out there, but I haven't got a website yet. The company is called Trestle, so Tresl. I think I've linked to it from my Twitter account. There's a Twitter handle for it, just as a placeholder. And I did a little subtle launch on LinkedIn as well with a post, which I think is another, I'm kind of learning as I go along. I kind of did it as a bit of a hook to kind of say, well, some people already know that I'm working on it because I've been talking to some people, but for the rest of you, hey, like, I've been working on this, and this is what we've been doing, and here's a little sneaky screenshot, but we haven't launched yet. But if you're kind of interested, drop a comment below. And like, I had a few people drop comments, and now I've got a little they've created a little marketing list for me to hit when I launch.
Nice.
And it's good for me actually, because there's lots of people I know who are interested that I know in the space.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not managing like a spreadsheet of contacts or hit lists. I'm not that organized, but when they flag up a comment on LinkedIn, I know I can go back to that and then reach out to them. But essentially the product is, I'm going to launch, there are existing players in the market. So this is all to do with apprenticeships. In the UK, it's UK specialist initially, but who knows, it might apply more broadly longer term. But apprenticeships in the UK is quite a big thing. The government's kind of behind it. And there are lots of different training companies and universities that offer apprenticeships. And they all do it differently, use different software. So apprentices are employed by a company, but they get to do learning as they go, right? So, and it can even be to degree level. So they can actually get a degree while they're studying, and it's free, right? It gets paid for them. It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
So I actually teach, part of my role at the university I teach at is running these digital apprenticeship programs. But the software that's in the space is very enterprisey, right? It's classic. Kind of, you go onto their website and it's a beautiful website with zero screenshots, zero videos. It looks very pretty, but there's no sight of the product anywhere. And pricing, you know, obviously it's book here for a demo,
right?
Which is fine, but it's very enterprise sales. They're pitching at larger, like universities, big kind of organizations. And actually, and I know from experience, some of the software is horrible. It is horrible for learners. It's horrible for teachers. And they sell to the executive teams who will never have to use it.
Right.
And I just don't like that.
Oh, totally.
Like that. And what I'm doing is, we've kind of done a bit of clever engineering so that we'll be able to launch a very simple tool. So there's maybe like 5 or 6 different tools that will be helpful for an apprenticeship program. We're going to launch one, a small tool, which will help let any student just register, and they can fill in this custom form. And it's kind of a compliance thing as well. So they have to do it somewhere at some point. So for the smaller training providers that don't have software, hoping this will be like a real win. Right, and we're going to launch it free, and any student can sign up. You don't need to book a demo. The training provider doesn't need to sign up. So they can just point students to it and say, "Go and do it."
Right. So is it like, if I'm a company and let's say I'm an agency, I'm a software development agency, and then I want to work with apprentices through the government program. I need to have a tool like this to get them onboarded, get all the forms, get everything set up. Is that the idea?
Well, it's the training company that has the responsibility. Yeah. So it's the training company, or the university.
So
they would be my target audience.
Okay. It's a training company or university. So a school of some sort that okay.
Yeah.
So like a university or
that's the training.
Or a training, like a boot camp. I'm not too familiar with, training company sounds like a broad, I don't know the UK too well as far as the school system goes, but
it is what it is. Just like, they're like, it's like a university, but not, right?
Okay. Got it.
An independent private.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
so the university or the training company has to get this software set up so that they can have their students go work for companies as apprentices. And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Basically.
Gotcha.
And they can, like some providers, some training companies, they just use spreadsheets and stuff.
Right.
Which is actually sometimes better than the other software.
Right.
But what I want to do is kind of make it a lot easier for them. And the way I want to hack the market is by making this initial tool free and open.
Right.
And it will support some of the clever engineering we've done is by scraping all the data for all of the different apprenticeships that are out there. There's like over 700. So we can launch to basically say, well, look, this form, you can fill in a form for any of the 700 apprenticeships. We're going to launch with like all of the, they call them standards, all of the templates.
Okay.
Basically. And then we'll just see who uses it and what programs they're on. And hopefully if we get, like, if it gets word out, then you've got learners registering and using it. Then the idea is to get them to fill in their profile who their training provider is, right? And then that starts giving me a hit list of companies to talk to.
Right.
And essentially, even if it doesn't go further than that, the other tools that we then want to develop will be chargeable, and that'll add more value. But this first tool, which will have value, we just want to put it out there for free. That's
brilliant.
I just want to make a noise, basically.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
That's just my style.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love everything about that. I think anytime there's the existing incumbents are these enterprisey tools. I remember when I was building, my email SaaS, it was similar. Like the on the higher end of the market, you had the enterprisey options, call to book a demo, and then the lower end of the market, you had these modules you could install that were like a one-time purchase, and they were, they had some issues. So that little sweet spot in the middle, I think is a great way to do it. That's cool, man. That's really neat. You having a good time with it? You having fun?
Yeah, I love it. I'm impatient with it. So I don't get to spend much time coding on it, but I've managed to get one of my students, I've actually managed to give like a little internship on it.
Oh, cool.
It's paid, I'm happy to say.
It's very meta.
Not amazing pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I love it. And that's the other thing, the great thing about teaching has been I've met so many great students.
Yeah.
And like, they are potential future employees, and partners, and it's I love it. I love the mix. That's just doing one thing. It's just so limiting, but being able to cross-pollinate ideas from tech and education.
That's so cool.
And, like tech Twitter and the creator economy.
Yeah.
I love it. But it's slow going, but I'm learning to be patient and just let it will happen.
Yeah.
It's admittedly a side project at the moment.
Yeah.
But I want it to take off, and I want it to get to a point, can revenue generate and, employ the guy that's working on it now. It'd be great to create a job.
Yeah.
But I want to bootstrap it. This is the kind of thing I haven't bootstrapped like a SaaS, kind of with monthly recurring revenue before.
Yeah.
Despite what my online persona might look like, You know, I haven't done that, and I want to do that.
It's a good challenge.
Even having technically sold a startup, it had no revenue,
right?
You know, we sold the tech.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird, as usual, I'm taking a really weird journey through everything,
right,
which is the story of my life, basically.
I feel like I take really weird journeys too. I feel like I take really weird paths to things. Have you looked at the different no code like tools that are out there? There's this kind of this whole.
Yeah, funny you should say. Yeah. So actually, yeah. So I've been looking at Bubble recently.
Oh, cool.
Actually, I introduced it to my students last week because I'm running a module where we have to build something. It's like a live project.
Yeah.
And I've always known that I really need to look at it, and so I ran a little live. I went through some of the lessons on Bubble live in class, and I recorded it, and then I've kind of compressed it and put it up as a YouTube video.
Nice.
And yeah, I think no code for me is so powerful. Bubble is like amazing because you can just create anything.
Yeah.
You just got to balance it with the known limitations, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's platform lock-in.
Yeah.
There's the kind of inevitable cost if you need to scale.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and I think there's loads of stories of non-technical founders being able to launch and scale a successful business. Yeah. It's fantastic.
It's fascinating. I had looked at Bubble a little bit. I ran into. It seemed like it was complicated to do like really nice, simple layouts. Like I remember you had to kind of, it's been a while since I looked at it, but it didn't like responsive layouts. Like the layouts were like fixed width and stuff. But that admittedly, I haven't got deeper than, because I know it's drag and drop and you can kind of draw your forms and stuff. I'm not sure how it deals with responsiveness. Right.
I haven't got that. It probably does, right?
Yeah.
But it's
I got to dig further
knowing
into that.
how to do it.
I use Airtable a lot for different things.
Oh, cool.
And I actually built a version of Commerce Hero with Airtable as the back end, and then the front end is like Laravel and stuff. And then,
nice.
But my problem is, I get an MVP up, I get a lot of stuff up, and then when it comes to ongoing maintenance and improvement and optimization, I just don't do it. I'm horrible at it, and so I've always wanted a pure no code site for Commerce Hero, and I tried doing it. There were some tools I tried maybe a year ago, but there were too many limitations when it comes to creating like account logins and login user specific stuff. But recently I've been looking at one called Softer, which is built out of Germany, and it's all on top of Airtable, and it has login features. It has user specific editing, all sorts of stuff. I have run into a few limitations though, which might be deal breakers. I've been messing around with it. It's like you'll get 90% of the way there, and then there'll be like this thing you need to do that you can't do. So I'm trying to figure that out. But if I can get to the point where I can build that entire site and all my workflows, my entire business on no code, that'll be amazing. Like I'm really excited, and the tools are getting better and better. But that it's weird because like I've been a developer my whole life, and then I kind of, I don't know, man, I lost steam on it, and now I'm excited about the no. And if I could build the whole thing on it, that'll be really cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely relate to like the kind of losing steam thing. I definitely, if this was 5 years ago, I'd maybe be. And it comes down to time as well. I'd be trying to build this thing on my own. I still wanted to, right? But I think it's been good. It's actually pretty healthy long term that somebody else is involved. Yeah. And I've had the opportunity to bring somebody in, like really, without having to, splurge a load of investment. But yeah, I as I've got older, I want to do things as efficiently as possible, to the point of like not doing anything at all, right? So I just want it to do everything I want it to do, right? And as quickly as possible. And interestingly, through my learning and teaching as well. So I've been digging more into Laravel. So Laravel is pretty my main sort of stack.
Yeah.
If anybody was to ask me, because PHP is my background.
Yeah.
But I've had to learn C# and .NET Core as part of my teaching.
Oh, okay.
And what that's done for me is realize the kind of stuff that you can do with that framework. It then made me impatient and demanding of like, I wanted to do the same things with Laravel, and it forced me to go and look for similar tooling that you could then do with Laravel. And more often than not, there was kind of stuff out there. Mm-hmm. So like cross-pollinating ideas from, being exposed to different concepts in different contexts, like can help you like supercharge stuff. But coming back to my wanting to do things as efficiently as possible, like that professional laziness is very real. Yeah. And I'm getting more and more professionally lazy as I get older. But I still like code, right? I still want to touch code. Yeah. But I want it to do things quicker. Yeah.
Therein lies the rub. Well, cool, man. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate you taking some time. Anything you want to add before we wrap up? Any links you want to share? Anything like that?
No. It's great to have a chat. It's like I haven't done many, if any, of these kind of podcasts before, so it's good to just get stuff out of my brain. Just sort of sharing it. Yeah. If you are searching if anybody listening is looking for job search, I mean, you can check me out on Twitter. That's where I hang out most. And I am Jon Jackson. And then there's a profile link on there to the little ebook. And just hit me up on DM or whatever. I'd love to chat and meet new people.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, man. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.